Up next in this grand tour, we're looking at a vast region of Mars in the southern mid-latitudes called Noachis Terra. The anomalies in this one are going to blow you away, guys. In the first grand tour, we looked at Elysium Planitia, which is this huge plain at the equator of Mars, where we find a rover Curiosity and the InSight lander. We also had a look at the pyramidal structures and megalithic blocks, amongst others, that we found there. Then we had a look at Argaea Planitia, which is down in the southern mid-latitudes. And just to the east of that, we'll be looking at Noachis Terra next. Just check how vast this region is. It measures approximately 2,500 kilometers by approximately 1,500 kilometers. And like I did with Argaea Planitia, I'm going to divide this up into 4 quadrants. That's going to make it a lot easier for me to keep track of all the anomalies. Let's draw a line through there. Right, so let's zoom up to the top left quadrant and have a look at those anomalies. There's a lot here, folks. So what I'll do is I'll go from top to bottom. We look at outline of large structures spotted north of Asimov, and that's where my friend Saturn Arc found this huge structure, the outline of what looks like it could have been a tanker. Maybe it's an old structure, who knows what that is. That there, if I can recall correctly, is about 300 meters long. Look at the right angle over here. And there's an outline that I put onto it just for clarity. And then we're looking here to the west, where I found strange megalithic blocks and patterns with strange little glyphs placed on top of larger parts. Check out that L-shaped piece with the quarter rounded part that fits into it. Seen that on Mars quite often as well. And it's lying on top of what looks like a megalithic slab, or maybe could that be sheet metal? And I'm going to cover these very briefly as well. We've got a lot of anomalies to cover, folks. It looks like a little UFO parked in that circular hangar. Not that it is, folks, it just looks like it. And we've got a strange monolith or slab sticking out of that block. Another piece of sheet metal or a slab, who knows what that is. Check out the alignment there again. Got a triangle, straight row of smaller objects, smaller dome next to it. These are also pretty common on Mars. The larger disk, the smaller dome in the center. Looks like the typical flying saucer, doesn't it? Row of smaller objects again on that one. You've got another L-shaped piece, the smaller block that seems to fit into it. A lot like the megalithic blocks that we find down in the Range of South America. Another disc. Here's another one, folks. Looks like this one's got a hole in it. Another disc. Also, quite often we see rectangular blocks with protrusions or holes in their centers. There's another alignment. This is also quite common in this area, I'll show you, where we've got a row of smaller objects, and off to the perpendicular we've got another object. So it's like a little T shape or like a triangle. Very significant in this region of Mars. We've got another disc-shaped anomaly. It's got a small rectangular part on it, and arranged around it in a circular pattern we've got those smaller objects. Right, up next, more megalithic blocks. This here is also quite interesting, where we've got the larger rectangular part at the bottom, smaller rectangular part on top, and it's usually parallel to one of the sides. That there looks like an underground entranceway that's been covered. Recent activity as well, with the darker surface material being visible. It's one of the megalithic blocks that looks very similar to those 4 that was discovered down in Antarctica that were lying next to one another. Right, then up next is Asimov. This looks like a piece of machinery or technology with the multiple rectangular designs on it. I've even compared that to like a piece of air conditioning ducts. Not that it is, folks, but it does look pretty similar. Then we've got more megalithic blocks and slabs. And my friend Saturn Arc discovered these. And then a strange cube with an oval spherical object next to it. It also has like a flattened dome-like protrusion on the one side. And this is about 6 by 6 meters in size. So although they look small in these images, they are relatively huge if you think about it. If you stand next to an item that's 5 by 5 meters, it's pretty huge. There's a strange half a disc shaped object. Look at the straight edges on this one side. Perfect right angle there. And then it's got a hole close to the center. Right, then we're looking at huge blocks. These are also about 5 by 5 meters in size. And my friend Saturn Arc and I speculate that these are retaining walls, and these blocks have moved apart, dislodged somehow, and then rolled down the slopes. Check out this megalithic block. 3 sides are visible. Could it be the sun shining through this object? Is it like an arch, or is that a piece of it over there in the sunlight? There's another one of those blocks. This one's about 22 meters long, folks. Check out the parallel sides and right angles to that. And then the top corner seems to be machined or carved out, a lot like the blocks that we find down at the Rents of South America as well. Right, then we're looking at a huge monolith. This thing measures about 73 by 34 meters or so in size, and there it is up close. There's nothing else like it in Asimov, and we compare it to the monolith of A Space Odyssey 2001. It's got approximately the same aspect ratio. If you look at the width and height, very interesting. Here's some more of those blocks. These seem to be covered in a white plaster-like material. Very interesting. And then a strange structure that looks like it could be half of a face. We've got the eye there, the nose. Yeah, I've mirrored that one object, and it looks pretty much like a face. Could this be a natural occurring, who knows, geology, or is this a sculpted piece? And is it possibly a piece of a face, a sculpted piece. Also, I've discovered another one of these on Mars. It's got this rounded part, rectangular shape at the back, with a small protrusion on the one side, in the middle of that one side there. See if I can find it in this region of Mars. And this is where I discovered this region that looks like water is seeping up to the surface and running down these slopes. Looks like recent activity as well. Looks like water and mud, the dark color. Very interesting. See if I've missed anything there. Doesn't look like it. Down here to the intersection point, the rock ship of Masuda. That item there looks very similar to this one in Japan, and it's also about the same size. It's about 5 by 5 meters in size. And then this object consisting of 3 parts parallel to one another. In the center of this middle piece, we've got a small disc. Looks like a little vent or a hatch. Found lots of these on Mars too, these strange wedge-shaped or obelisk-shaped objects. This one's about 8 meters long. Also a wedge shape next to it over there. Another disc. There's another one. This looks like a hatch. Look at the opening underneath it. There's another one of those quarter discs that I showed you up to the top left of this quadrant, but it's still next to a larger circular part. That there looks like a shield. Check out the shape and geometry. Got perfect symmetry in this piece. And on top of it, right there in its center, that small conical feature. This type of layout is also quite common, where we've got multiple layers, like steps. Don't know what these are, but check out the right angles, parallel sides on this thing. And also found a couple of these on Mars already as well, with this shape. The larger rectangle and a triangle protrusion on the one side. Some have got protrusions or knobs on them as well, like they've been machined to fit together, just like the blocks down in South America. Check this out. These two got the same darker rectangular surface feature on each. Strange rectangular object, seems to be open or hollow there on the one side. And there we go, again a circular pattern in the way that those have been placed around this small dome. More blocks. This type of design is also quite commonplace on Mars. Another perfect block. Looks like those up in Elysium Planitia. More of them over here. That there looks like a huge snail on top of this block. But look at the geometry here again. We've got a circular pattern going on. There's another one of those rounded blocks. See if we can find that other one, like this. Very interesting design. Okay, this is one of 2 blocks that I found that look like this as well. It's got like an oval design on the one side. In the center, it's It's got a small protrusion or sphere. Can't say for sure that there's about 1.5 meters in diameter. Strange rectangular area being carved out there, the right angles. And then this is parallel to it. There's another disc. Also, this is one of many I found. There's another slab over there, like a monolith. There's another triangle in that shape. Obelisk-shaped anomaly there. There's another circular pattern going on top of this. Three dark spots in a row there, parallel with this side, and then 3 dark spots there, almost parallel with this side. But that there is a 90-degree angle, as well as this. That there looks like a little square opening in this object, and there's a small disc lying in the opening there. That's about 1.5 meters in diameter. Another quarter disc. The way that there fits into this dome-shaped object. Looks like this part fits over there to the bottom left. It's another one of those triangular designs, like a T shape. 3 in a row. Off to the perpendicular, we've got another smaller part. Another one of those rounded blocks. I think this is the 3rd or 4th one we see here in this region. Looks weird, like a ribbed design. 4 dark spots in a straight line, parallel with this side. Check there again, another block, a small protrusion on it in the center of that one side. And this design we've seen in Argaea Planitia, where we've got the 4 blocks still next to one another. But this is almost a disc shape. Go over to Argaea and I'll quickly show you those. Conical part with a small triangle on the top. There again, 3 in a row and a smaller object off to the side. You've got 2 rows of 3 objects each in parallel. That we see in Argaea as well. We'll quickly have a look at that. 3 in a row there, another 3 in a row, yeah guys. And that's parallel with this one side. And why I always say that is, what are the chances of that happening in nature? Smaller, similar objects arranged in rows, with equal distance between them, and parallel to the one side of the larger object that they lie on top of. Who knows what's going on there? Another dome shape. Check it, the V-shaped object there. Small little triangle on top of a 1, 2, 3, 4-sided object. Looks like a hexagonal design, and smaller objects on top. Look at that geometry again. So let's see. I think I've covered everything in that quadrant. Let's go over to Argaea quickly. I want to show you those blocks. Right. Check. 3 in a row. Let me see it again. Another disc. There they are. 4 blocks. Next one another. Let's repeat it again. Where is it now? Over there. Okay, let's look at the top right. There's another alignment. It's also pretty common. I'll show you another one down in the bottom left quadrant. Got 3 objects in a row and perpendicular to it, smaller objects. Check those out. These are circular depressions about 6 to 8 meters in diameter, and in the center we've got a small triangular depression. I wonder if this depicts a star constellation in the distant past, like the pyramids of Giza that are laid out according to Orion's belt. There's another triangular pattern. 3 circular depressions. These are about 6 to 8 meters in diameter as well. Perpendicular to the one side, we've got a smaller circular depression. And that white feature there is perpendicular to these 2 larger objects, or depressions. Right, guys and girls, more discs coming up. This one over here is about 2.5 to 3 meters in diameter. It's got a small little sphere or dome on the top over there. Check out the dark area underneath it. Looks like this is hollowed out, and it's slightly pushed up over here to the left hand side. So could that be a little disc that crashed there, some type of craft, or is this an opening to an underground entranceway, and that there is a hatch or a vent type of object? I don't know. This disc is about 12 to 13 meters in diameter, and it's got a small disc in its center. And over here, folks, we've got a perfect disc. That there's about 8 meters in diameter, and in its center it's got that protrusion. Very similar in size to these 2 over here on that object. And then this funny surface feature doesn't look like a typical impact crater whatsoever at all. Doesn't have a mound there in the center. Check out the terrace or step on this thing. It's like a crescent shape. If I can recall correctly, this is about 60 to 80 meters across. I wonder if this is some type of mining activity, or whether this is a structure in this circular depression. You've seen a couple of those on Mars already as well, showing you those huge domes inside circular depressions. I don't know what this is. And the most important anomaly, I think, in this entire region is this object. It's about 12 meters long. So you can imagine if you're standing here next to this thing, it's huge. It's got like a convex shape to it, this larger part. It's got like a scoop in front and a smaller block or part there on the ridge or bevel, and a little winglet on the side here. Initially, when I first saw this, I thought it was some type of machine or debris or wreckage. But check this out, folks. It looks so much like the stone carvings of Scarab beetles. This one's in the British Museum. It's also got the rounded part at the back, the strange scoop in the nose, little winglet on the side, similar to one of these legs. And then this one at the Karnak temple complex in Egypt. So, natural geology, a boulder or rock? I don't know, folks. What's the chances of this happening in nature? I think this is some intelligent design going on there. But do let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this one. Check out the alignment there again. Weird object lying on top of it. And this is also quite interesting. You've seen that quite often too. We have a larger rectangular shaped object at the bottom and a smaller triangle on the top. Always seems to be parallel with one of the sides. That there is a rather interesting shape as well. It looks like the tip of a spear or an arrow with the design. There's another quarter disc shaped object there. Another disc with a little cone on it. One of those rounded blocks. There's another disc with a dome on it. Check out the small circular part there in the center of this object. It's got a little dome on it. Looks almost like a little UFO again. And it's inside an area that's been hollowed out. The right angles to that. Looks like something like a little craft parked in that in what looks like a hangar. And these long narrow objects are also quite commonplace, and they also have strange designs on them. I'll show you some more. This object's also rather strange. It looks like a spoon, the way that's hollowed out there, and it's inside another opening in that larger part, like a dish. It's weird. There's another one of those rounded blocks. I think that's number 5. How can these occur naturally? They all got the same shape and they're all the same size. How does nature produce those? And then there's a triangle. Check that out. It's got a uniform depth to it. Check out the long narrow piece there, parallel to this one side. It's a very interesting object, that indeed. Who knows what that is? Okay, let's see. Okay, more of these strange pieces. These look like debris, maybe even wreckage. That strange part there. Straight edge on this one side. And there's also a weird block with a circular carving on the one side. I've seen a couple of these designs as well. Okay, let's see. This is where we'll find that strange T-shaped design. It looks almost like a star constellation. There's one of 3 huge blocks like this that I've discovered on Mars, with a protrusion in its center. Also very commonplace. Each side is about 12 meters in length, and that is the case with the other 2 as well. I don't know what this is. It looks like a seashell, and there's a right angle there. That piece is about 10 meters across. There it is. 3 in a row. Off to the one side, perpendicular to those, we've got a smaller object. And there I've included that one in the top right hand quadrant for comparison. More blocks. It looks like sheet metal, very thin object. Don't know what to make of this. That strange design. Another one of those rounded blocks with a protrusion in its center. Three objects in a row there, perpendicular to this one edge. Interesting design on this part. Got 2 parallel ridges there. That looks like a hole with something coming out of it. We've got 2 small spheres or domes there. Maybe that could be smoke, who knows? Here's a close-up of that block with the bevels or ridges on it. Check this out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 small objects in a row there. And then parallel with it, we go 1, 2, 3 there. Another design 1, 2, 3, 4 parallel with that side, and then these 2 are parallel with those. Another disc shape with a protrusion in its center. That there looks like a fossilized bone. However, that is about 8 meters long. Looks like a craft with that raised part there in the center. This I've also seen quite often on Mars. We've got a surface feature that's slightly hollowed out with a small part in the center. This is one of 2 that I found, this strange T-shaped piece with a disc or rounded object underneath. Another triangular object. Look at the uniform thickness or depth to this one. It's got a rounded side there. Perfectly symmetrical. And a small dome-like design on the one side here. Another disc with a dome on it. And this is also a rather strange piece. It's about 14 meters long. Looks like a piece of sheet metal the way it's bent up, covered in sand and dust. Right. Bottom right quadrant. Let's start off there. I got two discs, same shape and size, pointing in a roughly the same direction. I wonder if this is sunlight gathering equipment. They always point in the same direction. Check that as well. These two, same size and geometry, and each one's got a little protrusion on it, pointing in the same direction. Looks like a wheel, 6 meters in diameter there. Right, let's look at these. More megalithic blocks. Look at the protrusion in the center of this one. It's got a parallel bevel on it as well. Seen a couple of those in the ruins of South America. There's another one of those rounded blocks in the center of this object. Weird. This is about 22 meters long, by the way, and it reminds me of this Quimbaya jet jewelry that they found in South America. The delta shape is very similar to this. The ornate design there on the top, very similar to what's going on here, and that there looks like the tail section. There's a disc underneath this pile of wreckage, so it looks like. And then what's this? Metallic sheet metal, who knows? Get the straight edges and equal angles on those things. Even that bevel on top, parallel with this side, same angle there. Right, let's look at the far right. This is where I found this strange structure. Looks like a huge dome, a little bit smaller than the face in Cydonia, but it's got the same sort of design to it. I speculate this could be a face that was under construction. This one's heavily eroded, the one in Cydonia. However, this one's in a very pristine condition. It's also got a skirt around it, same as the one in Cydonia. I've discovered many dome-like objects on Mars, very similar to the Amundsen Scott dome that they built down in Antarctica. Right, let's zoom up close here. Another one of those hollowed out dish-shaped anomalies. This one's a little bit bigger than the other one we looked at. Hollowed out spoon type of shape. To get the circular items here. Two more discs. I've discovered so many of these on Mars now. It's a very common design feature. Two larger parts and a bridging part in the center. Here we've got a disc, and on this side like a triangle. Very similar to the one found in Nabta Playa, Egypt, close to the little stone henge there. There's another strange part parallel with a triangular structure underneath. Another disc in the center of that piece. More blocks, check that out. straight edges and right angles. This looks like a pillbox type of design, that there could be open on the one side. Another disc underneath this rectangular part. Various blocks again, guys. Check out the right angles there. One, two, three sides visible of that, what I speculate might be a hexagonal object that's partially covered in sand and dust. Check there again. Small triangular object on top of a larger one. One side's parallel with the other. Small disc with a dome in its center. There's a nice cube. This measures about 3 by 3 meters in size. Here we've got another rectangular part there in the center of that. Little sphere in the center of that object. There's another one of those strange blocks with a circular design on the one side that I showed earlier. One of those rounded blocks. I think this is number 4 already. A huge disc, got a small sphere on it. And then off to the one side you've got another disc embedded into this large one. It's got a small rectangular part on it. I think there's another one of these that I've discovered on Mars as well. This weird shape to it. Looks almost like a TR3B shape. It's got 3 sides to it. There's another one of these blocks. Remind me of those that you find down in the range of South America. Another spear tip shaped object. Very similar to the one I showed at the beginning of this video. Look at the way these 3 objects join up together. Got a straight line going through there and a perpendicular line going through here. Right angles there, folks. Another disc hollowed out. Could that be a hole in its center, with this being the lid? There's another triangular design on top of this piece. Look at that perfect sphere. It's about 2 meters in diameter. There's another one of those parts. There's the one we had a look at earlier. Check this out. 2 large parts with a smaller part bridging that gap. And there's that one in Naphtha Playa, Egypt. There's another one of those strange shapes. Looks like a shell. This is huge. It's about 12 meters across. This is also very common on Mars. Another block with a small knob in its center. Very similar to this one. Check that out. Another circular design there. This looks like sheet metal. Slightly bent up. that edge. Doesn't look like a boulder or a rock, and on it we've got a strange part. These straight sides here. Small disc shape in the center of that. But straight edges there, guys. A triangular protrusion off on the one side. This is very similar to the one I showed earlier. But this one's hollowed out in the center and it's got a smaller part there. Got three little spheres lying inside that there as well. Two similar blocks with protrusions in their centers, very similar to those in Argaia. A small disc lying in the center of this piece, and arranged geometrically to the side, we've got three smaller parts. Another little cube on top of that object. This is very interesting as well. This triangular shape, the two smaller triangles that fit into it. It's like a block consisting of three parts. And there's another block right there, folks. So let's have a look at these blocks in Argaia. They're very, very similar in size and shape as well. I think I've covered all the anomalies in that outlined area. Okay, let's look for those blocks in my blog, and we'll find them in this ESP image, and there they are right there, folks. This was a really long video, folks, I know. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. Do let me know in the comments below what you think of these. Do stay tuned for the next tour. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.